You've characterised this as an I-thou relationship, and thou seems to imply respect anyway. What if you'd said it was an I-other relationship? Because that's what it is for some people. I-thou might be something achieved, not given by nature.
That's a very good thought, and it may be right. Ever since Kant and the post-Kantian idealists, this concept of the self as being in intrinsic relation with the other has been fundamental to moral philosophy. And of course it entered philosophy again in the 20th century with Kojeve's lectures on Hegel in France, and then you get it in Levinas and Sartre and Merleau-Ponty and all those people who quite rightly drew attention to the fact that the concept of the other is an extremely rich one, and it's absolutely fundamental to our having the concept of the self. It's that contrast which makes self-knowledge possible, but it's a contrast which also isolates the other as a special object in the world. It's not just one object among others. It's the thing that I address and from which I am addressed, and it's through relating to the other, getting to recognize myself in the other, and getting the other to recognise myself in him too, that the whole of the moral community emerges.
I suppose what I was trying to say was that there is a picture of human nature which does not see that respectful relationship as inevitable.
Yes, it's not inevitable in the sense that we know of human beings in whom it doesn't emerge. And this is what autism is. That inability to see the other as a self like me, or extreme autism. And then there are these falling away from the moral life of people who take some gratification in reducing others to mere it, as it were denying the subjecthood of the other. If we're to make sense of the great crimes of the 20th century, the Holocaust, the Gulag and all that, what was it except that? This attempt to reduce humanity to something in which the subject is a mere sort of memory or a bit of smoke left after the whole thing has been driven away, and all you have is this walking corpse. And that was one way in which people of limited sympathies can deal with the mass of humanity sometimes. All they can do is find a way to reduce them to objects so that they don't have to be answerable to them.
Does it follow from what you've been saying that the emphasis on neuroscientific explanations of humanity is something potentially dangerous?
Well, it's a very important question, that. Neuroscience cannot be dismissed. It's genuine science, and all sorts of interesting results are coming up all the time. But there is something dangerous in thinking that this tells us the reality. This is the real truth about human beings, and that other stuff that I've just been referring to is just some kind of dream or illusion that we can now do without. We can now treat human beings scientifically, as objects that can be explained and manipulated in this kind of way. You're then stepping into Huxley's Brave New World. And that book was incredibly foresightful, actually, about what the temptations are and the way in which people are now giving into them.
Roger Scruton, thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me. Very enjoyable.